Hello everybody, welcome to a different sort of video on the channel. We're going to be talking through my Power BI dashboard. If you've seen the folks in Invicta Save, you'll see how we've been utilising it from version 1 at now version 2, and I think ready to be released to the public. This video is going to be in three sort of areas. 1, what is the dashboard? 2, how do you use the dashboard? And 3, trying to use the dashboard in-game to show you how it can be beneficial. So to utilise the dashboard, we've holidayed forward to 2027. It is the 7th of February and the transfer window is shut. The Premier League table looks like this. The top 4 is filled up with Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City. Not too much to be unexpected by that. And the bottom 3 is Nottingham Forest, Ipswich and Middlesbrough. But for this save, we're going to be focusing on Leicester City. They are the biggest underachievers of their season preview in this season. They had a season preview of 12th and they find themselves down in 17th. So they are underperforming by 5 positions this season, which is pretty bad. It is pretty bad. Enzo Maresca has a lot to answer for, which is sad, isn't it? If we have a look at the XG table, they should be up in 9th. So they are really underperforming their XG. They will be a great example because they are conceding more goals and they are scoring less goals than they should. So something is going very, very wrong in that squad. Now, to keep this as fair as possible, we will be using the same system. They play a 4-3-3 under Enzo Maresca and we'll be taking that 4-3-3 on. We'll be tweaking it a little bit to make it more suitable to the players that we think are there and implementing a little bit of our own AI, human judgment that the AI can't sometimes do. So we'll be doing that. We're not as rigid as the AI managers are. They have a system they like to use. They put players into that system and they have their own sort of individual instructions or team instructions they like to implement as a manager. We can be a little bit more free-flowing, but to keep it fair, it will be a 4-3-3 DM wide that we'll be using as our base system. So what is the Power BI? That is the first thing that I said we would cover in this video. Now you know the club we're going to be using. Let's dive into the dashboard and take a look. This is the dashboard. It is everything you need to know about your club. It will start you on the club's player breakdown page. Ignore the information in here. This is from an old lead save that I was using to trial bringing in new data, and it worked, which is great. We'll be updating this for the current Leicester City squad in 2027 as soon as possible. So this dashboard and the front page breaks you down with how many players you have, 73 in total in this lead squad, what your assistant manager thinks their best positions are and how that's broken down throughout the squad, what the actual positions are in terms of overall midfielders, defenders, forwards and goalkeepers, what the right-footedness of your squad is and what the left-footedness of your squad is, what the personality breakdown of the squad is, and then a minutes to age ratio. So the higher the bar, the more minutes have been played by someone that old in the squad. In terms of the attacking stats per 90, this shows you a breakdown of the more important attributes per 90 minutes of your whole squad. But of course, not everyone in your squad is playing a lot of games. So when you get towards the end of the season, it might be beneficial to look at everyone that's played, for example, 900 minutes or the equivalent of 10 full matches, just to give you an understanding a bit more of those regular appearance makers and how that has been happening throughout the season. There's also the ability to search for a certain player, which we might do with a Leicester City player or two as an example. Then you get the defensive stats breakdown, which is very similar to the attacking stats. It will show you all the more important defensive stats you need throughout the club and how that's going, the 90 minutes completed, the total amount of tackles, the total amount of headers, so you can get an understanding of what has been happening throughout the season and who has been performing well. Next, you've got the player percentages, so other percentages that I think are relevant into good metrics for Football Manager. Your shots to goal ratio, shots on target ratio, your header win ratio, how many progressive passes players are making, your pass completion ratio, and your open play cross completion ratio as well. All very important things in Football Manager to understand who is performing at certain things well and who isn't. Next is the player rankings, and the player rankings was something that from version 1 people seem to really enjoy. What I've done is set up in the background, and we'll get onto that in a minute, is every single role in Football Manager, your players are ranked against everybody else in your squad, how they perform in that role. From 1 to In this case, 78, I think it was, for this Leeds team, or however many players we had in there. What this page allows you to do is filter out anybody that is one of the worst players in every single role available in the game. For example, if anyone here is ranked 12 or above for every single role in the game, they will be filtered out if you just click this button. Now, of course, this will include a lot of youngsters that have come through the youth academy, and that's a little bit unfair. So you can change the age to say I want to restrict it to people that, let's say, people have hit their peak at 21. These two players are ranked 12 or worse in every single role compared to everybody else in the club, and therefore probably shouldn't have a contract. You can then also do it for ranked 10 or above, it's the same two people, or ranked 5 and above, and the list will get a little bit longer. So you could look at, for example, Jack Harrison in the Leeds squad that I was using at this phase. He's 30 and he's not ranked as the top 5 in any position or any role ever. You should probably be looking to move him on, especially given the age that he's 30. Next up, you get into the rankings themselves. The next page, goes from every single defensive position you could think of, from centre-back cover to libero support. Then you've got your full-back positions, and then you've got your more defensive midfielder or defensive winger in here as well. Next page does the same for midfields, forwards, going through everything. That ranks every single person. So what we could do in here, if we look at Jack Harrison coming through this, Jack Harrison, as you can see, is ranked as the 6th best roaming playmaker at the club, to be honest. He's ranked as the 9th best winger on support or winger on attack. He's ranked at the 7th best advanced forward and the 7th best shadow striker. But none of those are very good for a 30-year-old. He's probably a waste of wages, to be honest. Next up, you're looking at the defender position scores. This then breaks down into the data to show you how good everybody is in a certain position. We'll get on to how this is figured out in just a second. But what this does is it allows you to see by numbers who is best at what. So the best ball playing defender cover in this save for Leeds was Pascal Struijk. But you can see there's a lot of numbers here. So a quick glance suggests that actually he is better to play as a wide centre-back with a 15.67 rating. His best is a 15.8 as a centre-back on defend. Now, obviously, this is a lot of numbers. It can get a little bit confusing. So the other thing you can do, if we use Archie Gray as an example, you can just filter it down to one person, have a quick flick through and see where the highest number lands. That's then available for all the midfield position roles as well, and all the attacking position roles in here as well. On attacking positions, you just got to be wary that you need to scroll right to find advanced forward because they didn't all fit onto the same one page, which is a little bit annoying, but it is done and dusted. You can also go for and look at defenders and just filter it to people that your assistant manager says their best position is a defender, and that will make it a little bit easier to see as well. That can be done for forwards, it can be done for midfielders as well. It's just personal preference, but I thought I'd put them in because it does make it a bit easier to manage the data. Right, how is all of this calculated and sorted out? That is all done in the background in these tables in here, which we might have to touch on a little bit later. It depends on how this video goes, but you can see this is everybody's attributes from the game, which we're going to pull out of the game in just a second for Leicester, and then it ranks all of their positions. It works out their average ratings based on the roles that are needed. Now in Football Manager, there are green bands and blue bands on every single player profile suggesting what the primary and secondary statistics are or attributes needed to perform that role. That is what is used in here. If we take ball playing defender on defend, for example, what is happening is it's taking the key attributes, so heading, marking, passing, tackling, positioning, composure, strength, and jumping reach, and then averaging out all of those attributes and timesing them by 80%, 0.8. It's going to give you 80% weighting. The secondary attributes, first touch, technique, aggression, anticipation, bravery, concentration, decisions, vision, and pace are all divided to get an average of those, and they're given a 20% rating. They are secondary attributes. And because, as a human player, we can get more out of those players because we know that jumping reach, acceleration, pace, and in my case, I really like determination, so I've put determination in there. They get an extra 10% of the weighting. So although a player can only play to 100%, we're weighting their attributes to 110%. 80% of that weighting is going to the primary key attributes that are needed for that role. 20% are going to the secondary listed attributes for that role. And then the extra 10% is listed by, we know as human players that physical attributes help you out, and I really like determination. So they are then averaged out, divided by 4, or averaged out by dividing by 4 and given a 0.1 weighting. That then puts into here, works that all out, and that is done for every single role in the game. This took me a long time, so I really do hope you enjoy it and use it, and it allows you to work out what's going on. Now, those who watch the Folks in Invicta save will know that there are a number of people that should have attributes which are better to be used in a certain position which isn't their primary position, and that is very, very key and has helped us for young player development, getting people in for utility players and things like that. It's been very, very helpful. We take those rankings and then every role is ranked within the squad, and of course you do get the situation where one player will be better at everything else compared to everybody else. So this player here, I don't know who it is, but is the number 1 fullback on defend, fullback on support and fullback on attack. That's not uncommon if they're a standout player. Once they are all ranked, as you can see, there's a lot of them that need to be ranked in here. Once they're all ranked, they are then ranked to say whether they're 12 or above in everything, 10 or above in everything, or 5 and above in everything. That is how all the attributes are ranked. But alongside this, we also have our extra data. So our extra data is pulling all the data from Football Manager in terms of minutes played, average rating, goals conceded, XG, XA, all that sort of stuff. And then we have a few little manually calculated things on the end over here as well. And then, of course, we have our final one, which is for our goalkeepers. And all this does is just calculate at the back end who's the best goalkeeper on defend, sweeper keeper on defend, sweeper keeper on support, sweeper keeper on attack. But generally, this isn't built into the dashboard because it's normally quite obvious as the player who your best goalkeeper is. You can normally judge them quite easily on the save, but if that's something to be built in, that might come in version 3. Who knows? So that is all the inner back workings of the dashboard, what the dashboard does, what it shows. Let's go and see if it works for Leicester City. So back into the game with Leicester we go, and this is the squad. This is the senior squad. It's full of a lot of people. It's big. It's very full. There's a number of players in here that are unregistered and can't play. However, what we want to do is I want to get absolutely everybody from all around the squad, the seniors, the under-21s and the under-18s, to be put into the dashboard for this example. However, what I don't want is people that are not at our club. Anyone that's out on loan, I'm not fussed about them. Their data can't impact me. We can't pick them in terms of attributes. So get them out of this. We don't need them. We really don't need them in here. Right, next thing you need to do is, and all of this will be available on the Discord in a special Power BI dashboard channel on my Discord. Link is in the description below for you to download it and use as you like. You can come in here and there's 3 filters or 3 views that we need to use. Attributes, all outfield, CLF squad view goalkeepers, and the final one is data. Oh, sorry, excuse me about that. The final one is CLF squad view data. So first off, we'll start with attributes, all outfield. This is just listing every single outfield attribute within the game that you can see, you have access to without using the editor. You scroll down, make sure all of your players are ticked. You can do that from Control A or doing what I do, which is click the first one, hold the mouse button and scroll the scroll wheel. Then you can use Control P, or you can go to print screen through here. What you need to do at the moment is make it a web page. This is one of the improvements that I'm hoping to bring in the future, but you print it out as a web page, and this one goes under outfield attributes. You can call these whatever you want. This doesn't matter for a name or anything like that, but call it outfield attributes. Save that one. If you've done this before, it'll ask you to overwrite it. That's not a problem. Making sure everyone remains ticked, you then go into custom and pick the next one, which for us will be goalkeepers, just listing out all the goalkeepers one. It will make sure it's the right one because it will say right and left foot on here. That's quite important because it links up to something else in the Power BI. But again, you can go through, make sure everyone's ticked, press the print screen, make it a web page. This one can be goalkeeper attributes in there. These will just go into your default Football Manager 2024 folder. I'll take you through that in a minute. And then the next one is, as we said, to go and look at data, wherever it is. There it is, data. And this just pulls out all the in-game data that we want to look at. And again, file, make sure everyone still remain ticked, print screen, web page. And then I've called that data extra. You can call it whatever you like. That is how you pull the information out of Football Manager. And now we have to go back to the Excel spreadsheet and Power BI. So this is the Excel spreadsheet that I just mentioned. This will be in the Discord as well, available for download. What we need to make sure we do is not delete these two columns at the end, which is in AO and AP. So going into your folder, this is my OBS folder. Welcome everyone. You can look in and see what's going on. In your documents, into Sports Interactive, into Football Manager 2024, you will see the things we've just created will be down here as a web page. The first one you need to open up is Outfield Attributes. It'll load it up into your web browser, whether that be Chrome, Opera, Mozilla, Skype, Internet Explorer, or whatever their new one's called, Edge, I think it is. But what you'll notice is we have two columns just before the name column. This is very, very important. The name column has to be in column A, but you can't just paste the information over that column, because if you do that, it will delete these columns AO and AP where they currently stand, and they need to be there. It's very important. So the first thing to do on the attributes column is add in two columns in here, because what you'll notice is it just bumps the two columns we need at the end, and then you can paste the information in. So you can go back to your web page, highlight it all from position selected at the top all the way down to the bottom. Try not to include the SI Games link at the bottom of the page. Press Control C, get back into Excel, select A1, Control P to paste it, and then just delete those first two columns, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, everything's back in the place it needs to be. Very important, scroll to the bottom and make sure there's no columns here that have something that isn't a player's name. If they do, it just means that last time you brought data in, you had more data there, and you've deleted the columns with the name. So if there is data there, you can just highlight it all, press delete, and it will get rid of that for you, and that will be fine. That is your attributes brought into the game. So now all we have to do is repeat it for everything else. So goalkeeper attributes, you can see here we've got 1, 2, 3 columns before the name. Name has to be at the end as well, although for goalkeepers I don't think it actually matters. Let's go and have a look. We'll copy all the data from that into the spreadsheet, look at the goalkeeper columns. There's no manually calculated columns at the end, so you can just paste that one straight in and make sure you delete those first 3 columns so that name is the first person on there. Scroll down and here we go. So you can see here we actually have extra data in these rows, so we can just delete that. That's not a problem. Highlight, oh, hang on a minute. Highlight all of them. I've actually made one a bit smaller there, but highlight all of them, delete that, and that is all you need to do. So that ends with Ben Bicoro. If we go to our attributes, that one ends with Andy Fletcher. So Ben Bicoro is actually there. So these 4 we know don't need to be there because Ben Bicoro is the last one on the goalkeepers. You can go back to the game as well. Scroll to the bottom of all the players you've highlighted, see who the last one is. It is Ben Bicoro, so that is the last person we need to be in there. And then the final one to do it with is data extra. Again, there is 1 column before name, so make sure that when you highlight all of this data and then you copy that over, you go into extra data, add a column in here so that name isn't the first one because there are automated values at the end of this one. Click on 1A, post that in, delete position selected, scroll to the bottom and know that Ben Bicuro is the last actual Leicester City player. Delete them off the list, and that is all your data implemented into the spreadsheet which is needed. Now I've called mine squad analysis, and that just sits in my documents, like just sits in here, my documents around with my other spreadsheets and stuff like that. And that is all you need to do in Excel. So what you need to do is go into transform data for the first time you're loading this up, transform data, and it will bring you into this sort of thing here that looks a little bit interesting. Ignore the fact it says TCKC can't be found. We will correct that. Go up into source and make sure that this link is correct, right? So you need it to be reading from, ideally, users/admin/document/squadanalysis.xlsx. Now, if that isn't there, you should be able to come in and change this to whatever yours is called, but you'll have to know where it is saved. So my advice would be download the squad analysis Excel file, keep the name the same, and put it into your C drive users/admin/documents folder, and that will pull everything out for you the first time that you load it in. And then you shouldn't need to do anything else. As long as that spreadsheet is there, that should allow everything to talk to each other. Click close and apply, and then that should allow all of your tables to automatically fill this information. If you have to go through and pull the data in, I think it's then going to delete all of these automatically calculated things at the end of the tables. So you'll need to go to transform data and make sure that that is correct. My advice is just download the squad analysis spreadsheet and put it into your C drive users admin documents folder, and everything will be hunky-dory. Fingers crossed. So once all that data is in the game, you can literally just press refresh, and that will then pull out all the, for us, Leicester data into the Power BI. No, it won't, because I completely forgot to tell you, on the spreadsheet, you need to change TCKW to TCKC, because Football Manager or Sports Interactive, for some reason, in a very recent update of the game, changed it from tackles won to tackles completed. So that's something we have to do. You can press save, just do that in there, go back into the data, press refresh again, and this time you won't get that error message. But you need to make sure you save the spreadsheet every time you do something. You will get one of the loaded queries contained errors with 68 errors. Ignore that. That's just where people don't have data because they haven't played any games. So for your youth teams and things like that, anyone that's got a 0 or a dash, that just brings up an error. But we're now in the dashboard with our Leicester City squad. So we have 6 goalkeepers, 25 forwards, 19 defenders and 18 midfielders. We have 53 players who are very strong with their right foot, 15 that are very strong with their left foot. Be wary the colours don't match up on those two for some reason. And there are 68 players in total. Our assistant manager thinks that 10 of them are best at centre-back, 10 of them are best at central midfield, etc, etc. And we've had a good variation of minutes per age, which is quite good. And we've got a balanced personality squad with the majority being 15. But the first 3 are normally what I look at, and none of them are bad. Determined, ambitious, balanced, all look pretty good, to be honest. So heading into the attacking stats per 90, looking at it with no restrictions on minutes, the first thing I always like to look at is what is our XG and underperformance as a whole squad. So we are scoring, we're 24%, nearly 25%, nearly a quarter behind the goals we should have given our XG, which is quite interesting. You can see here as well that XG per 90 minutes, Abel Ruiz is our highest player. He does have our most goals with 7, but he's then down to 0.31 on his goals per 90. So he's outperformed or not performing to his XG by 0.2 per 90 minutes, which is quite considerable. That's quite an amount to be off your XG. That's quite poor. But you can see progressive passes. James Justin, Luke Thomas are making some good ones. Tizanko's chasing, creating our most chances per 90. And Kieran Dewsbury is having a most play key passes with expected assists per 90, 0.88 for Wilfred Ndidi. But as I said before, you might want to filter that down to people that have played more than 10 games at the club, or the equivalent minutes of 10 games. And that then leads you to this. So again, Wilfred Ndidi isn't there, so he must have had a one-off game or something. Abel Ruiz has the most assists, he has the most goals, and he's doing all right. Whereas Manson in goal has had 27 games, so he's been ever present. But when you look at people that have played the equivalent minutes to 10 full games of football, our XG to G drops to 11%. So it does get better if you look at the people that have played more often, but it's still not great. So the other thing we can do is let's focus on Abel Ruiz just a little bit more. You can see he is underperforming his XG by nearly 43%. He is not having that many expected assists per 90, although he is our leading assist maker. He is making a lot of open play key passes at 0.8 per 90, and the progressive passes at 0.84 aren't too bad either. You can clear that filter just by clicking the little rubber at the top. There, so we can go into our defensive stats and have a look at what's going on here. So a key one I think looking at straight away is total headers. So Ethan Pinnock, who I said might be a little bit too old, is winning most of the headers with that, or winning the most headers with 102. He is winning the most per 90 minutes as well. And we are having a tackle success rate of 72.62, only winning 50% of our headers. But again, if we filter that, that already is on 900. If we put it to 0, Everybody in the squad is only winning 44% of their headers with a tackle success rate of about 75%, and then put it back to 900. So you can see headers could be a bit better. We're not that great at tackling in terms of success, but you can just pull out little bits of data from here that should make it a little bit better for you to look at how the squad can doing. So possession lost, Casey McAteer, Abel Ruiz are very guilty at losing possession quite a lot of the time. Into our player percentages, and now looking at the whole squad with 0 minutes as are listed. Pass completion, Wilfred Ndidi's had 95% accuracy with his passes. Yusuf Akman, Ethan Pinnock, Victor Christensen. That's telling me that our centre-backs and our central midfielders or holding midfielder are pretty good at keeping the ball and being pretty safe with it. However, shots to goal, 25% for Semenyo, 25% for Wout Faes in there as well. Shot to target ratio, so Omar Kaderi and Wanye Marcel have had 100% of their shots on target, but I'm expecting that to change when we look at different minutes. And header win ratio, Paulinho's up there with 100%, Wilfred Ndidi with 86, Ethan Pinnock with 77, Wout Faes with 75, so some good information from that. And crosses, they're not completing great amount of crosses. 1 in 4 is pretty good at 25% with Nicolas Capaldo, and Tom Cannon at 25% as well. It looks pretty good. But if we knock this up to the equivalent of 10 games, you can see there's a big change. So shot to goal ratio, our best shot to goal ratio is a centre-back. That's a bit of a concern. Dewsbury Hall at 52% of his shots end on target is not too bad, but to see a striker, no striker up there is a bit of a problem. Progressive passes, so the amount of passes completed divided by the ones that have gone forward, is James Justin with 16.27 at the top of that. Ethan Pinnock is the highest heading win ratio at 77% with Wout Faes behind him at 75. And our open play cross completion is at 24% with Kieran Dewsbury Hall and 21 with Luke Thomas, so not too bad. Looking at the player rankings, you can have a look and say, okay, which, as we said before, which 22-year-olds or 21-year-olds are ranked 12th or worse in every role. There's a lot of them, so I would suggest this squad is pretty bloated, and it could do with some trimming down, which is something we already know. You can have a look at 23-year-olds, I think, for anyone above 10. Wanya Marcel should be nowhere near our first team, basically. Given he's only played 52 minutes, it does seem like he's not been near the first team anyway. And then if we look at players that are ranked 5 or above, you can see Luke Thomas here at left-back has had 1,965 minutes, but yet he's ranked outside the top 5 left backs at the club. So unless we've got a lot of overlap between centre backs, left backs and right backs, I'm going to suggest he probably shouldn't be playing, but we'll have to have a look at that in due course. And of course we can look at that in the defensive roles here. So for example, if we look at fullback on support, it does say Bamba is the best. Wout Faes, James Justin, James Garner, Ndidi, Ethan Pinnock. So there does seem to be a lot of overlap between fullbacks, holding midfield and centre-backs in our club, which is something to keep an eye on. Midfielders and forwards we can get into in a minute. We'll use all this to pick the best squad and go through it. So what we can do is look at, it was Luke Thomas, wasn't it? Luke Thomas in here. And you can see from his outstanding attributes, his best one at the moment is 14.05 as a wide centre-back, 14.55 as a fullback on defend. So his best position is actually a wing-back on defend, a flat 15, averaging out all of his attributes with a little bit extra for pace, determination, jumping, reach and acceleration. He is saying his best position is a wing-back on defend, unless he is then found to be potentially best as a defensive winger. He's not. He comes close, but he's not found to be best as a defensive winger. So I'm going to go through our Leicester City squad, take into account all of the per 90 results we can get, the player percentages that we get and rankings in here, and come up with the team that would sit best in a 4-3-3 formation. Let's go into it. That took a lot longer than I thought it would, and it comes to show why Leicester are very much underperforming their XG, because when we put everyone in their best positions possible with the PowerBi, Kieran Dewsbury Hall is our striker as a false 9. Malario is the best striker at the club, but is definitely a winger. His average rating of attributes is like 17 for what's needed to be a winger on support on the left or the right. And given that we're going to need to get people around Dewsbury Hall, we're actually going to play the favoured footed wingers on other sides. So they're going to stay wide and then come in. This is what the game says in PowerBi with the attributes all averaged out, is the best team Leicester can play. Hermansen in goal as a sweeper keeper on support. James Justin as a right back on wing back defend. Pinnock and Suter in the middle with Faze as an inverted fullback on the left-hand side. Bamba playing in that holding midfielder as a ball-win midfielder on defend. James Garner in there as a playmaker. Viega as a Mazzala on attack. Zignankov on the right. Morello on the left, and Dewsbury Hall up front. Now what we need to do is sort out our actual shape and system. Now, Leicester City, we need to get wins, so we're going to go positive. We need to get wins in this system, in this game. We're going to go positive on that one. In possession, our players using the data suggest that we can play out a defence. They're quite good with the ball, and I'm quite happy with that. I think that's pretty good. I think given we're playing a false nine, we don't want to pass into space. We want to actually have the build-up coming through the middle. Potentially, we've got 3 players in here and the false nine's going to be dropping. So I think if we can do that and then allow the wing-backs to sort of be the recycling of the ball. So we've got a wing-back on defend and an inverted full-back. So I think that is what we need to do here. I am very tempted to play shorter passing. We have a playmaker in the team. We have defenders that can pass the ball. So I do think that's not a bad thing to do. But we don't want to dilly and dally around with it, right? We want to get the ball forward a little bit quicker. I don't want the whole team to run at defence. I want our wingers to run at defence. So we'll use that as an individual instruction. We have big meaty boys at the back that are like winning headers. Faze, Suter and Pinnock all win the ball very well in the air. So we will play for set pieces on that one. We probably should work the ball into the box, but because we're going to work the ball into the box because we're underperforming our XG so much that we are going to work the ball into the box and go for those higher chances. I'm not fussed about creative freedom. The players can do a little bit of freedom if they want to. We're not going to pass into space. In the transition, we're going to counter press because, as Musterman says, it's always the best time to win the ball back is the counter press. So we're going to do that. In terms of controlling the play, we are going to get the goalkeeper when they can to roll it out. Try and keep the ball in our defence and build up through the middle like we want to. And then out of possession, we need to be on the front foot. We've got 3 players up here that all have a lot of energy, all have good stamina, and all like to close the ball down, so we'll high press. And to keep it compact, we'll have a higher defensive line as well. We will press them a little bit more, but we're not going to press the goalkeeper. Like, if they want to have the ball at the back and then come into this zone, that's when we're going to try and close down that first bit of pressing. We're not going to get stuck in because we're not actually great as a squad for winning our tackles. The back line are, but everybody else is a little bit weak. So again, individual instructions, we'll probably have Bamba on get stuck in. We're not going to step up more because we would prefer to actually win the ball in the air with the players that we have at the back. We are going to try and trap them inside, force them into here, which is fine. And then we're going to invite the crosses to keep ourselves narrow at the back because we've got big meaty boys at there that can win the headers, and that is what we want to do. And that is the system we're going to be playing between now and the end of the season. And this is how it's going to work. We're going to go through and do all the staff responsibilities and set them to be done by absolutely everybody else. Set to recommended staff member, set to recommended staff member, and set to recommended staff member. And that is all of our staff responsibilities. I've got to do set pieces as well. Don't forget set pieces. Got to do set pieces, because what we're going to do is I'm going to play the game and we're just going to instant result every single game when we can. That allows me to rotate the players when they get tired. It allows me to use the PowerBi to bring in people that need to be replaced. For example, FaZe has a little bit of a knock. If he doesn't get over that, we might need to just adjust the shape a little bit because we don't have another inverted fullback. It would be a left back coming in to play there. But in game, the AI will do all the subs. We're just going to get through the season by instant resulting all of the games as we get there. I'll be back to, I don't know what would be successful. I'll report back at the end of the season. I think if we're more than 4 points away from safety, I'll say we've been successful. I think if we have improved our XG, I think that's probably the main thing, right? We need to be getting the club to be more around where they are actually should be. They should be up in 9th and they're down in 17th. So I'm hoping that we can pick up some wins, do pretty well. What won't be changing is the system, so to speak, but we'll be changing players as they get injured and as they get tired and going through that. Let's let's see how it goes. And with that, the season is done. Was it a success for Leicester? Let's dive in and take a look. And yes, a huge success. 12th is where we finished, 42 points, miles away from safety. Nottingham Forest actually got safety as well. Bournemouth had a terrible end to the season. But yeah, up into 12th, and we took over on what, February the 7th, I think it was. So that was the last game I think they played before we joined. That was January the 31st, February the 6th. We came in here, and this season rise at the end was absolutely phenomenal. Now, we did tweak the tactic ever so slightly. We changed our striker to an advanced forward because we just weren't creating enough chances, and we changed the winger to an inside forward. Because Malaria was the best advanced forward at the club, he went up front, which opened up a space on the wing, and that became an inside forward because that's what Paulinho loves to do on that side. That's what the PowerBi says was best, and we went with that. And Kieran Dewsbury-Hall was nowhere to be seen in the starting 11. Christensen came in because Suter picked up an injury towards the end of the year. As you can see, he's only on 90% fitness and he didn't play. But what we played for the season was this. Generally, after that first few games, James Garner and Alexi Garcia just rotated with fitness levels. But other than that, it was pretty succinct. And we picked up some absolutely incredible results. So Man City was the game we took after over that game. We lost our first game to Bournemouth 2-1. Ibrahim Abamba getting us a goal in that one. We beat Liverpool 1-0. Casey McAteer had to come in on the right-hand side. I forgot to mention, that got off to a terrible start straight away before the Bournemouth game. Chiganov and Morelia both got injured, our starting wingers. So, so that was even better against Liverpool because we didn't have either of them in the team. We lost to Brentford 2-1. Ivan Toney scoring in the 95th minute. We lost to Brighton 1-0. João Pedro getting the goal in that one. We beat Southampton 1-0. Gabriel Viega got the goal there. Nottingham Forest were put to the sword 5-1. Paulinho got one. Malario got a hat-trick in his first game as our striker. And Viktor Siankov got the goal in there as well. We lost to Chelsea 1-0 but played reasonably well. And then we beat Leeds 2-1. We beat Everton 2-1 as well. Lost to Tottenham 2-1. Beat Man United at Old Trafford 2-1. They only scored in the 96th minute. Dewsbury-Hall off the bench got a goal. And we finished the season with a 1-1 draw against Aston Villa. But the key thing for most of these games is that the team performed so much better playing in the same shape that we did before. Now, we don't know what Enzo Maresca used as players setup, but this setup appeared to make it work. We did get an injury to Pinnock, I think it was, or Suter. One of the centre-backs got injured, so we moved Faze in and put Christensen out there. And at that point, we took off invite crosses. Everything else stayed the same, but we took off invite crosses. And it just seemed to play a little bit better into our hands. I think we were maybe compressing a bit too much. But we took that off and then left that off for the season. But everything else stayed exactly the same. Oh, we took work ball through the middle off as well. When we had to change to an inside forward and an advanced forward, we took that off to say play through the middle. We wanted to give them a little bit more space to play wherever they wanted. And it worked. We have improved Leicester no end. They've gone up to 12th and we've done really, really well with them. I'm very happy. It's actually gone a lot better than I thought it would. And there were some very interesting sort of elements that came out of it. We'll put the new data into the Power BI and try and do a little comparison. I think that's not going to be too easy, but we will try. Top goal scorer ended with Malaria up front, 9 goals. And very interesting, Abel Ruiz, who was the second top goal scorer with 8, didn't start a single game for us since we took over. Like, he was their main striker. I think he had some of the worst XG percentage as well, goals to XG. Like, he did not start a single game when we took over. And that is, I think that says a lot for using the attribute sort of aggregate to say what's going on. In terms of assists, it was Tsiganov and Garcia with 6. Garcia sort of played his way into the team around James Gardner. He had a much better sort of pass completion and progressive passes compared to Garner in the deep line playmaker role, so we started rotating those two. a little bit more. Gabriel Viega did very well as well. Average rating wise, Dewsbury Hall up there with a 7.09. You can't knock that. And Christensen as a 7. Two players that didn't start for us at all, both on the bench for every single game. Christensen did only play 7 games in total. But yeah, James Garner up there, probably the main one that we played at, with 7, with an average rating of 7. Of course, we did only take over for the final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 games. We took over for the last 12 games. So for the time we had, that's a huge impact, right? I mean, we drew 1 and we won 1. Oh, well, we can look. The easier way to do this will be to look at my profile, right? I think if we go to the homepage, my profile, yes, we played 12 games. We scored 17 goals, let in 13, a goal difference of +4, win percentage of 50%. So we lost 5, won 6, drew 1. So I think that's very, very good. I'm very happy with that. For 12, I mean, you could extrapolate that over a season. What's 12 into 38? So 12, 4 times everything by 4, roughly. And you'll get, is that right? No, times everything by 3. 3 would be 36. Yeah, times everything by 3. And yeah, you'd get a decent number. So 12 games played, 6 wins. So 6 times, I'm just going to get the calculator up here because I can't be asked to do this in my head. 6 times 3. So 6 times 3 is, so 18, yeah, +1. We got 19 points. If we extrapolate that over the season, so roughly times it by 3 more, that would be 57 points with 2 games to play. That's not, I know that's not a scientific way of doing it, but 57 points with 2 games to play would have put us in 9th with a potential of getting into Europe. So there you go. I mean, we massively turned it around by just picking the correct players from Power BI. Now, what I want to do, obviously, the players aren't going to change. The rankings aren't really going to change that much, although training has happened. But I think all we're going to do is take the data from here and just to see if we can do some comparisons in terms of the data to what we've had before. So just to make it fair, we'll include everyone from all the squads again as well. I don't know if that's going to work now. Sometimes Control A doesn't work for some reason, so I prefer to do it this way. And then, yeah, so we'll put this into the Power BI and then we'll be right back. Okay, so with that new data in, all we need to do is press refresh. It'll update everything. I've got to change tackles completed. It's always that one, isn't it? It's always, I always forget to do that. Damn Sports Interactive for changing that on the fly. It's very irritating. Save that back into this. Give it a refresh. That should now work. And, oh, hello. Column name in table extra data contains a duplicate value of Joshua King, and this is not allowed. Bear with me. Okay, that's now loaded correctly. What it was is I forgot to check the bottom column to make sure that it was ending on the same player, and it wasn't. There was duplicates in there. But so now that's loaded. Obviously, the breakdown isn't really going to change, but we can go in and have a look at our attacking stats per 90. So 900 minutes played again. We're going to see if anybody has climbed the list. So our XG percentage has dropped quite a lot overall as a club to -10%. So we very much improved on that, which is very, very good. Total assists with Alex Garcia climbed up to 6. Abel Ruiz, yeah, as we know, didn't really play that much more. He may have had a couple of appearances off the bench. Obviously, we weren't in control of that with the instant result simulation. But Alberto Malaria jumps to the goals per 90, and he's the one that I really wanted to have a look at and compare to see if we can change. So here is what he looks like now. This is after we took over, and I'll put a screenshot next to him on the screen or overlap it slightly so you can see the difference. But yeah, 41% XG to goal percentage is very good. Completed 27 90 minutes, total goals was 9. Still got only that 1 assist, but I guess when we put him up front, that's understandable. Progressive passes per 90 at 2.4 is very good as well. Chance creation 0.41 per 9. So yeah, it'll be interesting to compare. Obviously, I can't see it compared back to back or next to each other. So that's not too bad at all, which is very, very nice indeed. Defensive stats. Wout Faes was up there with 14 possession wins per 90 minutes. That is incredible. Casey McAteer lost the most possession, as did Abel Ruiz, so good that they were pretty much dropped out of the starting 11. Harry Suter and Kieran Dewsbury Hall up there with the most assists per 90. Headers 1. Ethan Pinnock stayed at the top of that one, and passes completed were, again, dominated by the back, which I'm happy with, so that's not a problem. Tio Kehrer got dropped in our save. He didn't really play for us at all, but still manages to rank high of the tackles per 90. James Justin did really well to climb up to 2.77 as well. We had a header success rate of 51%. I think that's slightly gone up from before, but I can't remember. Very, very impressed with Ethan Pinnock. I wrote him off, didn't think he'd be great, but he actually performed very, very well in the system that we played as well. And then the player percentages. So shots to goal, Albert Moreo actually then climbed up that and got 19% of his shots to ending in goals. Harry Suter was shots on target, got 71%, so very good in the air from set pieces, which we tried to focus on. And Alberto Malaria up there again with 53% of his shots being on target. Winning headers, we said 77% for Ethan Pinnock was really good. Really good pass completion out the back as well, which was very handy. Progressive passes, so Luke Thomas, who didn't play very much for us, 14%. James Justin climbed up there as well at 14. And open play cross completion. Yeah, we didn't really encourage crosses, so I'm not expecting to see too much difference in that. But overall, I'm very happy with how that went. I thought it was really good, and I really enjoyed it. So what I wanted to touch on in the last little bit of the video, so section 4, I guess this is that one, if you want to see me do another save, I don't have to go into the Power BI in so much detail. If you want to see these again, where we take over a club maybe halfway through the season and see if we can improve it by using the Power BI data and sticking with the same shape, but giving players basically giving players the roles that their attributes suggest they are best to be used in. I think that could be quite a good idea. Let me know if there's a club you want to try it with, or a league you want me to try it with, something like that down below if you want to see this again. And then the last thing was just improvements I want to make to it, and it's going to depend on whether FM26 comes out soon. If we get news about FM26, I'll probably leave the Power BI as it is and try and focus on one for FM26, because I do think it's helpful. But I do know there's ways I can speed up the process. Like, I can make the information you pull out of Football Manager straight away be readable by Power BI straight away, so you don't have to have your own individual spreadsheet. It's a bit more finicky to make that work, and a bit more upfront work for me to make that work. So that's something I'm going to work on, and I really want to implement part of Power BI that can help you with transfers through data, very Moneyball-esque, very relying on data and comparing players like that. That's something that I'd really like to focus on, I think, going forward. And this is really, it's very geeky, and I understand this is very geeky and nerdy, but it's really inspired me to look at playing the games, playing Football Manager in different ways. I've been inspired by a number of people, like Musterman, especially for his Moneyball series. He's so good at what he does, and I love a Moneyball save. I've done one with Brighton previously, but I think this has opened my eyes a little bit to realise there's actually so much you can pull out of Football Manager to help you play better. And prime example, we've taken Leicester from 17th to 12th with only playing 12 games and making no signings, only using players that are at the squad in a system they were using before with slightly tweaked roles, and just using data and attributes, averaging and things like that to make them play in their best position. And I've really enjoyed it. I hope the edit of this comes out well, because I've had to do it in different stages. Let me know your thoughts, and I really hope it works for you people to download it and use it. All in the Discord. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.